Hi everyone, what I'm going to talk to you briefly about in this particular video is the homemade hose reel that I've made for myself. What I'm not going to do though is show you how I made it, because this is serious DIY. I'm not saying that you're not capable, but it is difficult and I would have to dismantle it again to show you how I actually made it. But I'll just run through briefly. It might give you some ideas if you really want to go into this. I've asked manufacturers if they'd come up with a miniature hose reel which is lightweight and yet has enough capacity to actually go on a trolley system, but so far we've not had anything very much. Peter Fogwill I think brought one out, but I haven't seen any around. Okay, this is the one I've made. Originally it was a reel that had airline tubing on it from a pet shop, and that's all it had on. It's just a plastic reel with nothing else. It had the center hole here. Okay, so what I did, take the old airline hose off, and I'm using this rhino tube now. Okay, what I did was got one of these elbows which goes on one of the big hose reels you have in your vans, etc. To keep the connection short, what I've done here is just put the hose pipe straight onto the connector there with a Jubilee clip pretty tight. Then I've reduced it down to accommodate rhino tube here, another Jubilee clip and a spacer in here, just a plastic spacer, so it will be nice and tight on the pipe. You can get reducing inline connectors. I've actually got an elbow one for this version, but I never found I needed it because this doesn't leak. Then I've strapped it on, cable ties round, and that will go into the inside of the hose reel there. Now the most important part of this DIY project is actually this elbow. As you can see, it twists around, forming a waterproof seal here, just like it does on the big hose reels. Okay, on the other side of this there's a plastic hose lock connector which just screws into it, and again I've put the garden hose on exactly the same way as this, but without the Jubilee clip. And that's important because the Jubilee clip would not fit inside of the hole here. So I've used fishing line and insulation tape on that joint, but it's basically the same thing. Okay, but that's the weak point I had before, but I think it'll last this time. Now the elbow I got here was from an old hose reel. I'll just show you. Just an old hose reel. You can see where the elbow is there. I just took it off, as you can see there. Saw it at this point if need be. Just take it out there, and that's a basis for your hose reel, which will connect to the trolley, as you can see there. So that goes through to your connector, comes out the other side. Originally the spacing here, you can see it's still a bit slack. I packed that out with various bits of tubing to fill the gap, because this tube here was a little narrow for it. Then I put another Jubilee clip here to stop the whole hose reel from sliding this way. This Jubilee clip here is just to hold this bracket on here. The other one's taped on because I riveted it and the rivet came out. But it's important to angulate this so that it gives the rigidity. I found if you just left it without this particular bracket here, what would happen was this would work loose eventually. There's two big Jubilee clips on there as well. And as you can see, the pipe comes out of the hose reel, comes out here. That's just one of these spring clips, just for other things, just for hooking the pipe on when it gets in the way or whatever. So I'll dismiss that. Anyway, the pipe comes out here and connects with the backpack. This is where you need another reducer. I've used a brass one. So it's hose size down to 8mm. I think that's 14 to 8 which are available. I'm not absolutely sure of those figures, but you'll know what I mean if you do attempt to do this. So there you go. The rest, dead easy. If you're going to use a backpack, 3 bungees. That one I put round the neck, comes down and hooks on to the chassis there, both sides, and that keeps the backpack from going up and down. So that's all that is. So there's the hose reel. So far so good. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. It tidies everything up. You can get quite a lot on there. You get a sense of scale. Put my hand near it. It's very small, very light, and it really is a good thing to use. Now the handle, all that is, if I can get the camera right, is bolted through. Drilled a hole, bolted through. There's a bit of wood in there. Drilled a hole through the wood, a bit of broomstick, and on top of that I put a bit of plastic pipe which turns. You can see. So when you spin the hose reel around, that turns as well. So there's your little handle. Fantastic. That works an absolute treat. If you don't want any more to come out of the reel, what I've also done, put a little notch in there into which the pipe will fit. Rhino tube. Failing that, you can use this clip as I was talking about earlier on. These spring clips, and you can just connect it to the trolley there, and that'll make sure it won't pull out any more than you want at the time. So yeah, that's basically it. I'd really need to take it to pieces to show you how it's made. It's fairly simple, but it's very, very involved. It is the hardest project I've ever done, really, but it has been successful. I've used that for a couple of years previous to this, and I brought it back into commission. So there you go. Come on, manufacturers, we want some of these. Okay guys, job done.